All right.
So we're live.
We're
CMLive.
live. Let's do it.
Yeah, joining me right here probably doesn't need the introduction, but thrilled to have Scott Helman joining us. We are in the Warner Music Canada East Coast offices in Halifax. Scott's here, show tonight at the Carlton as part of the 25th edition of the Halifax Pop Explosion. I think a midnight set time?
Yes, yeah.
There you go. And his tour mate, Scott and Rhea, out on tour, Rae Mai that is, across Canada. She's, I guess we can give a quick shout out at the Rebecca Cohen
What up,
tonight.
Rhea?
Yeah, probably getting set. We were trying to arrange a chat here, but she's got a busy one. She's performing with Symphony Nova Scotia as part of a really cool show that they do with the Pop Explosion. But yeah, zooming back here. First off, Hotel de Ville, you could have read all about it in the May-June 2017 issue of Canadian Musician. But yeah, let's start generally. How's the tour going with Rhea? Fill me in on what else is keeping you busy other than this string of shows you're on.
Tour's been really good. Lots of, just all the shows have been amazing. Just really fun and really heartwarming shows. Like, fans have been amazing. In Montreal, actually, a fan cut out 200 paper hearts that said 21 days, and all the fans took them out, to my surprise. So that was pretty special. Yeah, our bus broke down in Belleville, Ontario. We're on our way to the Toronto show, which is one of the biggest shows of the tour, and it was really crazy.
401?
Yeah, so the beginning of the tour was a little hectic because of that, so that kept us pretty much busy up until we got our bus back in Montreal. But yeah, you know, I checked out Halifax yesterday. I mean, I've been here a couple of times, but we went for a walk, went down to the park, down at the bottom of the city. And yeah.
All's good?
All's good.
Tell me a bit about that pairing. I thought it was a really natural fit when I saw that you and Rhea were going out together, more than just equally great hairstyles and breakout singles that have to do with taking your clothes off. Yeah.
I never noticed that. Well, I met Rae Mai a couple years ago, and we just felt naturally, you know, we're very similar. We love the same kind of music, and I thought it was a great idea to pair us because we're both singer-songwriters. We both love writing pop music, and we're different enough that I think people can expect two really great shows all in one. So It was just a perfect match, I think.
Oh, bang on. Yeah, I want to talk a bit about music, about Hotel de Ville, but I kind of soft pitched this to you before we got started here, but kind of timely. We've spoken quite a bit about losing Gord Downie earlier this week, and I did want to ask, even before learning of his passing, but you know, the more time I spend with Hotel de Ville, there are these great little, a few moments throughout the record where you go into kind of a spoken word segment that is just very rhythmic and sounds kind of like flow of consciousness, poetic, that really reminds me of Gord, and especially like live, there's certain songs where he would just kind of go off in these beautiful, I don't even want to call them rants because it sells them short, but I guess all this to ask, like, maybe I'm grasping at straws here, but thought that maybe he was an influence for that approach you took on this record, and would just love to hear a bit about your thoughts on him as a creator.
Well, I think, you know, I would have called myself a writer before I called myself a musician. So I was writing poetry and stories and ideas before I was playing music. And I would say that I found a real joy and excitement in writing, you know, contemporary music and pop music specifically because of the challenge of fitting so much into 3.5 minutes.
Right.
And I think that the real beauty of the hip and of Gord Downie and of his poetry was that a really good example is a song like 38 Years Old. That song is, to many people, just a song about a dude that's never kissed a girl and he's 38. But if you really listen to that song, and if you don't know what it's about, I really recommend you do because it's a fantastic song. But there's so much subtext, and there's so much that you can find out about that song. And I think that ever since hearing, you know, the hip, I've always carried that with me of the idea of being able to express a simple idea, but one that if you look into it, it can always give you more. And it's sort of like a very deep well.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really the goal of short songs, because you only have a certain amount of time and you have to keep people excited, and there has to be a universality to it. But I think that if you can have that and as deep a subtext as possible, then you've succeeded. And I think that Gord Downie is someone that has always was incredible. It's so weird to say always was incredible at that, and an inspiration in that sense.
Oh, well said. Yeah, it's interesting to hear that you were writing before playing music, because I've been quite drawn to your lyrics too. I think you're a very good writer, and it's interesting hearing that perspective, and then being able to kind of think back and apply it to some of the tunes. And so, like, I remember when we spoke last for the cover story, we were talking about like co-writing with Simon Wilcox and some of the other collaborators you had. So I'm curious then how that plays in on the lyrical side. Like Hotel de Ville, there is a lot of what I've got to think is anecdotal lyricism there. I mean, even the name of the record, I know you spent some time living in Montreal. So where I'm going with this is, like, when you're co-writing, I've got to think like music, you're going for the hook, you're writing the tunes together with someone else. How open are you though on the lyrical side to input from other people? And
it depends like who you're writing with, but I think that and it also depends what kind of writer you are. So if you're someone that's a top liner, or you're someone that's really lyrical, it's really great to work with someone that's a really amazing producer, because you'll bring two things together.
Nice.
For me, someone that's extremely lyrical, I love writing music, and that's something that I pay a lot of attention to in the studio. But for someone that I would say is predominantly, is more focused on lyrics and ideas and concepts.
Yeah.
Working with someone like Simon Wilcox is really amazing, because she is like that as well. And I feel like her role as someone that's like me in the studio is to take I'm a scatterbrained dude. Like, I got a lot of stuff in notebooks, and a lot of it makes absolutely no sense. Or it makes sense to me, but to someone else, they'd be like, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Right.
So for someone like Simon Wilcox to be there and say, this is that, when you said that made me feel this.
Right.
Or when you put these two things together, it's so much better than when you put these two things together. To give perspective, like, that's a really useful thing to have in a co-write. And that's why I don't think that a co-write usually for me won't work unless I have the feeling and the words yet. I think it's harder for me to just inspire myself. I mean, it's been done. I mean, not PDA, actually. Let me think of a song that was totally... song like Ripple Effect. That song was pretty much just start and finish, like, in the studio.
Yeah.
But we had a conversation for 2 hours before we wrote that song, and I felt like I had a well to draw from. So I'm ranting a bit about it, but I think it's a matter of really having the information, like the data, before you go and try to put it all together. And that's... if you have that, it's good to have someone like Simon Wilcox in the room. If you don't have that, it's always good to have Simon Wilcox in the room. But if you don't have that, it's really good to have someone that has a lot of ideas,
right,
and has a lot of words, which Simon does too. Like, sometimes I'll walk in the studio, I'll be like, man, I've been so busy for a week, I haven't even had time to think about like the idea of writing a song. And she'll be like, I remember when we wrote Chinese Restaurant, we had this really good melody and this good chord structure, but we couldn't think of a song, and I was getting overcomplicated with it because I was trying to write the opus magnum. And she was like, okay, dude, let's start off simple. And she said, give me a word. And I said, laptop. And she said, okay, let's write a song called Laptop. And the song literally started off, I could be your laptop, baby, type on all my keys, like the silliest you could think of. And then it got to a point where it was like, well, I like this idea of I could be your blank.
Yeah.
And so then it was, I could be your comfort. I'd build you a nest, you'd be my bluebird. And then it slowly became this thing. And then when we got to the chorus, I was like, let's write. And then it was like, I only saw you once in China. And it all just sort of came. So, yeah. Does that, I don't remember what the question was.
Oh, no. if I can editorialize, it sounds like, a lot of your ideas are abstract and sometimes very personal and exist in context. And having someone that is on the same wavelength as you to sort of bridge that gap and maybe distill some of those ideas into something that's a bit more, I don't want to say palatable, but easily consumable in a pop song.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of describing it. I think also, for me, feel like I become a more advanced songwriter, I'm starting to look at things differently. And I think when I started out, everything was a bridge. And if you write songs, you might know what I mean by that. But everything was like, I could be as obscure as I wanted at any point, and there was no like, this is the chorus. I need to like say what I'm trying to say. But I feel like I got really good at, you know, being like, okay, this is the verse, I'm going to develop the story. This is the chorus, I'm going to say the thing that people will remember. This is the second verse, I'm going to develop the story further. Next chorus, the chorus has more context because you have the two verses. And then the bridge is where you get to add like a new element to the song. And so I think that's why my bridges are, like you're saying in PDA, are so rambly, is because I feel like once I get to a bridge, I have the artistic credence to be like, here's a bunch of things that you didn't even think would happen at. So now that I think I've got that down, I'm trying to figure out now how to make the first verse like kind of like a bridge, and then by the time you get to the what would be naturally considered the bridge, you would get what the song was actually about.
Right.
But that's just like, I mean, there's just a million ways of writing songs. So, and that's why, again, Gord Downie was so amazing, was because I feel like, was just born with the knowledge of how this all worked or something. Because what an amazing poet and songwriter.
No doubt. Oh, interesting.
Sorry, that got really techie, but...
Hey, we are Canadian musicians.
Yes, that's true.
Real. Yeah, I don't know how much input you had in this, but I've got to think at least some. And there's a compliment here in that I was really curious to hear what the second single would be from the record after Kind of Complicated. And so PDA, great track, and I would say like that was definitely an option. But there are a few others on there that are just,
it was not easy,
so sticky. Yeah, what goes into that process? What kind of things were you and your team considering? When you were choosing what to roll out second? Well,
the reason why I wanted to go with Kind of Complicated first was because I felt I still feel that Kind of Complicated, it sort of has all the elements. Like, it has the slightly alternative vibe. Mm-hmm. It's a pop song with really great hooks. Yeah. It has my sort of rambly poetry aspect, and it has that acoustic aspect in the bridge, and it just felt like the most me on the record that was radio palpable.
Well put.
So I think artists, I think it's different where you are in the world. I mean, I think in the States, it's like you got to put up the best banger song right away. But I think that people are a little bit more relaxed in Canada, and I felt like I could put out Kind of Complicated as a reintroduction. People had already heard Bungalow. Mm-hmm. Go back to something that I felt was very me, and then release a song like PDA that had a lot of heart and a lot of fun and was easy and just felt really good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I thought that was a good way to do it. I don't know why. I think PDA is definitely one of the best songs on the album, though. But it's like,
there are a
you
lot
never
of
know.
standouts.
I just felt like the right move to me. So
right on. That's to say, PDA, the current single now from Hotel de Ville. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming, just knowing the venue, that your Carlton show tonight, is it solo, full band?
Full band, yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, that'll be happening. Well, then I guess my question loses a bit of steam, but I thought if it was going to be you or maybe accompanied. Either way it flies, though. Like, your band, you and the three guys still?
It's actually 5 guys.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, 4 guys. 4 guys. We're 4 guys. It's bass, guitar, drums, and me.
Okay. So I'm curious, just with what we were talking about, especially maybe looking at Kind of Complicated, how it does, I like what you said there, kind of bits and pieces of your artistic identity, or it's a very you song. I'm curious, like, when you were making the record, did you have the way that these songs were going to translate to the stage and to the live environment on your mind, or was it more the case where, like, let's work on the record, it's its own entity, and then after that kind of go back, revisit, and figure out how stuff was going to come across?
I'd say for certain songs I had the band in mind, and I think that the more that I played with my band, the more that's just part of who you are. It's not even so much that I was going like, this is really great and this is really great, but it was just more like I've been touring with my band for enough time that it was just, they were just sort of like almost there in the room with me.
Sure. In
spirit. And when we did start producing the record, like, we had the drums and that, but like computerized, and then when we went into the studio, I went like, let's play all this stuff live and change stuff and really start crafting the production. they were there and they were playing on the record. So yeah, like for a song like Kites, I was thinking about my band. And I was thinking about the show and thinking about how great that song would be live. Whereas a song like Origami, that was a really personal song. Even a song like Housekeep, very personal song, really about the song and about how it should sound. And like a song like Origami, what I wanted it to feel like was, because I mean, it is a sex song, but there was a moment when I was living in Montreal and I was walking from my crappy apartment to my girlfriend's way nicer apartment because she really lived there. I only sort of stayed there for a month or two. I was walking from my apartment to her apartment. It was the middle of winter. It was freezing cold. And that feeling of getting into her house and that warmth that I felt, I wanted the music to sound like that.
Wow.
And I don't know why, but when I hear that song, I always see like the color blue. Like I feel like I'm in water or something. So I really like that. That idea was more important to me than like how it was going to turn out live.
I see.
So, yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
I don't know. And that's why I feel, as a songwriter, I feel like production-wise, it's always what serves the song. Mm-hmm. And when the song serves the full band, then how do I serve the full band? But when the song is about me and my experience, and it's a soft personal song, how do I serve that feeling?
That's interesting, because it almost seems like two different approaches, and yet like the record is very cohesive and I think seamless, that I don't know that I'd be able to tell one way or the other. That's cool. You have to forgive me, I've been trying to think of it for a while here, and I pride myself on remembering everything I'm going to ask so I don't have to look at notes. But you were saying you just came from the SPCA today, and charitable initiative that you've developed is called? It's
called Solve the Solvable.
Solve the Solvable.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's a tongue twister.
Solve the Solvable. Remembered it. Solve the Solvable, which I think has its own website, or you can find it off of Scott's.
Yeah, it does. Early on in my career, I really was trying to think of a way that, if this took off, how I could really help. And I think when I was younger and I started really loving and listening to music, at least I call it becoming musically literate, like really knowing what music was out there. What I gravitated towards was music that changed the world or had some massive impact on the world. So music like the Beatles or even Nirvana, Joy Division, the Rolling Stones, etc., and Grateful Dead. And what I had to come to terms with, I think we all have to come to terms with, is that awakening period, it's over, unfortunately. Okay. And we no longer have, I'm not going to be a pessimist, but I don't know if an artist could come along anymore and change the world in the same capacity, at least now. That's how I feel.
Myself, I think you're onto something.
And so when I came to terms with that, which I did, which sucked, but when I came to terms with that, what I really started to sort of look on the bright side of was, well, we have the internet now, and we have the ability to communicate with people not only a lot, but really personally. And the idea that change can come in a really hands-on, truly like hands-on way is something I think people need to pay way more attention to. And so the way that this idea started was like, my publicist said, what charity do you want to get involved with? And that question just was such an anxious question, because how am I supposed to pick?
Right.
And I think when you're scrolling through your newsfeed and you're looking at like the 800 different massive global issues that there are, the end result of that is, well, I'm just going to go watch Netflix, because what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to help that? And so my idea was, well, if everybody just did what they were passionate about and what was in their community and was local. So if everybody in the world tried to help something that was directly in front of them, then I think at least the world would be a better place. And then we would have the ability to deal with those massive issues, because we wouldn't have people that were homeless in our community, or people that were food insecure in our community, or we wouldn't have dogs and cats that need rescuing. And those people would be freed up to really actually create some change. So the idea is called Solve the Solvable. And I've been going, as I go out on tour, I go to, in each city, or I try to in a lot of the cities, go to just a charity or an organization, see what's up, go help out, and just show people that it's really actually quite fun and exciting to be a part of those things.
Yeah.
Rant done.
An important thing to rant about. No, I think start micro, and if enough people go micro, it goes macro.
And do macro. Like, the people that are out there that are working on macro issues, it's not a matter of discouragement. Those people are incredible. But I would rather people be concerned with micro issues than not be concerned with anything, because it's so overwhelming. And I don't feel guilty for being overwhelmed. It's super overwhelming. And especially as a young person right now, it's like, it's a lot. But I think that if we could just start small, then that's the least we can do. And it's fun. It's so fun. I get to play with dogs and cats today. I mean, what else would you want to do?
Yeah, no. And then you had to come sit here with me.
Yeah.
No, Solve the Solvable. Scott Helman. Hotel de Ville's The Record. PDA is the latest single. Tonight at the Carlton in Halifax. Full band show at midnight. And then tomorrow, following me home to PEI, Charlottetown with Rae Mai, and continuing on that tour. Anything else you want to let people know about?
To be happy and well.
Can get behind that. Thanks to Warner Music Canada, John Poirier, and Halifax Pop Explosion 25th edition 2017. And we're out.
Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
Perfect. It's a good interview.